Earth's hidden potential. In the quiet expanse of the cosmos, where the stars twinkle like scattered diamonds, a vast and advanced alien race known as the Xarvos roamed freely, conquering planets and expanding their empire. The Xarvos were a race of tall, slender beings with skin as dark as the void of space, their eyes glowing with a pale, electric light. They had seen it all: civilizations, planets, and galaxies far older and more powerful than Earth. To them, Earth was nothing more than a blip on the map of the universe, a small, insignificant world situated in a remote corner of a spiral galaxy called the Milky Way. The Xarvos leader, Commander Vexler, was one of the most formidable beings in their race. His intellect was unmatched, and his drive for conquest was unparalleled. His fleet had encountered countless civilizations, each one falling before the might of their superior technology. He had seen what other planets had to offer, and none had been able to impress him. When word of Earth's existence first reached his ears, Vexlar had dismissed it with contempt. A primitive world, he muttered under his breath, his sharp voice cutting through the quiet control room. A world filled with nothing but insignificant life forms, no different than the countless others we've erased from the universe. Why should we waste our time with it? His second in command, a being named Sira, had argued differently. Sir, there are rumors that Earth's atmosphere is unlike anything we've ever encountered. Some believe that there are unique compounds there, capable of creating energy beyond our understanding. But Vexler, ever the skeptic, only scoffed at the idea. He believed that Earth was a planet of no consequence, one that held no value for the Xarvos. However, the more Vexlar heard about Earth, the more his curiosity grew. There were whispers that the planet's atmosphere might contain unknown elements, gases that had never been seen before. Some even suggested that the very atmosphere of Earth could be alive in some way, an active entity capable of influencing the environment. Though he initially rejected these claims as mere myth, something inside Vexlar began to wonder if there was a hidden truth buried in these stories. Despite his misgivings, Vexlar decided to investigate. He ordered his fleet to set a course for Earth, their advanced ships cloaking themselves in the vastness of space to avoid detection. They would arrive quietly, observing the planet from the shadows, and gather all the data they could without revealing themselves to the primitive inhabitants below. It would be a simple mission, a routine scan to confirm the truth about this insignificant planet. As the fleet approached Earth, the atmosphere shimmered before them, a quiet blue and white marble floating in the emptiness of space. The world appeared peaceful, harmless even. Vexlar watched the planet on his command console, his mind already preparing for what he believed would be yet another boring scan. His eyes were cold, calculating, dismissing the world below as just another meaningless dot in the cosmos. "Prepare the initial scan," Vexlar ordered. The crew aboard his ship moved quickly, setting up the necessary instruments to analyze Earth's atmosphere and surface. Zira stood beside him, her glowing eyes watching the data feed intently, waiting for any sign of something unusual. As the first readings began to pour in, Vexlar's demeanor remained unmoved, but Zira's expression began to shift. "Commander, you should see this," she said, her voice laced with disbelief. She motioned for Vexlar to look at the screen. At first, the data seemed unremarkable, but then it changed. The readings began to fluctuate in ways that were both unexplainable and highly unusual. The composition of Earth's atmosphere didn't match anything in the Xarvos' extensive database. The oxygen and nitrogen levels were consistent with what they had expected, but there was more. A new element, one not previously cataloged, appeared faintly in the readings. It was unlike anything the Xarvos had encountered. Vexlar narrowed his eyes. "What is this? What are we looking at?" Zira's fingers flew across the console, her mind racing to analyze the strange data. "It's not possible. The elements in the air seem unstable. There's an anomaly here, a compound unlike anything we've seen. And there's a faint energy signature. We can't identify it, but it's definitely there." Vexlar's gaze turned from the screen to Zira, his thoughts shifting. You're saying Earth's atmosphere is unusual, in a way we don't understand. Vizira nodded slowly, still processing the overwhelming information. Yes, Commander. But it's more than that. It's as if the atmosphere itself is alive. We've never seen energy signatures like these before. Vexler's mind began to race. The Carvos had encountered countless planets, and their scans were designed to detect any type of resource, any anomaly that could be exploited. They had discovered some amazing things in their time, but nothing like this. The energy readings were unlike anything the Xarvos had ever encountered. It was as if the planet was alive, breathing in its own atmosphere, creating an invisible, pulsing energy that defied all logic. We need to gather more data, Vexler said, his voice calm yet filled with a quiet urgency. Increase the sensitivity of the scans. I want to know everything there is to know about this planet. If Earth has something we've never seen before, we need to understand it. As the scans continued, the results only became more baffling. The readings from Earth's atmosphere were now revealing even stranger data, traces of a compound that, if harnessed, could provide energy on a scale never before imagined. There were fluctuations in the electromagnetic field surrounding the planet that suggested something was manipulating the flow of energy in ways that shouldn't have been possible. The data didn't make sense. It was too far outside the boundaries of what the Tarvos understood. Vexler's mind churned. Could it be possible that Earth's atmosphere was not just some random collection of gases and elements? Was there something more to this planet? Could it be that this seemingly insignificant world held a secret so great that even the Tarvos, with all their technological superiority, were unable to comprehend it? I want a complete scan of Earth's surface, Vexler ordered. We need to understand what's happening here. But as the scan progressed, something even more shocking began to unfold. The energy signatures coming from Earth weren't just erratic. They were growing stronger. The planet's atmosphere seemed to be responding, adjusting itself in ways that Carvos couldn't explain. It was as though the very air itself was alive, reacting to the Xarvos presence, strengthening the planet's defenses. This is extraordinary, Xira whispered, her voice filled with awe and disbelief. Vexler stared at the screen in silence, his cold, calculating demeanor finally shaken. Prepare for further analysis, he said softly. There is something happening here that we didn't expect, and we're only beginning to scratch the surface. That Xarvos were facing something they had never encountered before. Earth wasn't just another planet. It was a mystery. And that mystery, Vexler realized, might just hold the key to a power unlike anything they had ever imagined. As the scan continued, Vexler knew one thing for certain. Earth was not the insignificant world they had once thought it to be. It was something far more dangerous, far more powerful. The question now was, what would they do with this newfound knowledge? The awakening of Earth. As the Tarvos continued their deep scan of Earth's atmosphere, Commander Vexler found himself consumed by a growing sense of unease. The anomalies in the planet's composition were no longer just curious. They were profoundly unsettling. The data was unlike anything the Xarvos had ever encountered, challenging every assumption they held about the nature of life and the universe. Each new scan only deepened the mystery of Earth's existence. Vexler's fleet remained cloaked, hidden in the far reaches of space, observing the blue and white marble below. He had ordered his crew to gather as much data as possible, but the more they discovered, the more questions arose. This planet, this tiny, seemingly inconsequential world, was turning out to be far more complex and dangerous than they had ever anticipated. Xira, his second-in-command, stood beside him in the quiet control room, her glowing eyes fixed on the ever-shifting data stream. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, her voice filled with disbelief. Vexler's attention shifted to the screen. The energy signatures that had once seemed faint and erratic were now pulsing with an intensity that could no longer be ignored. They were growing stronger by the hour, as if the planet itself was coming alive, reacting to the Xarvos presence. The fluctuations in the electromagnetic field had intensified, creating waves of energy that rippled across the planet's surface and into space. "Is it responding to us?" Shira asked, her voice tinged with awe. She had seen many strange things in her time with the Xarvos, but this was something entirely different. The planet appeared to be aware of their presence, and it was reacting with a force that defied explanation. Vexler's mind raced as he considered the implications. For the first time in his long career, he was unsure. This wasn't the cold, mechanical data they were used to. This was something far more organic, unpredictable. It felt as though Earth itself was conscious, a living entity capable of sensing and adapting to its environment. This discovery was not just an anomaly, it was a revelation. "Prepare to launch a full atmospheric probe," Vexler commanded. "We need to understand what is causing these fluctuations. There's more to this planet than we originally thought." The probe was launched silently, its sleek form streaking through the upper atmosphere of Earth. As it descended, it gathered more data, analyzing the composition of the planet's surface and atmosphere in unprecedented detail. The information it transmitted back to the Xarvos fleet only deepened the mystery. The probe's findings were nothing short of extraordinary. Not only did Earth's atmosphere contain rare compounds and strange energy signatures, but there was something even more remarkable. A series of complex biological processes occurring beneath the surface. Deep beneath the planet's crust, vast networks of energy conduits were working in unison to sustain life. The Xarvos instruments detected intricate systems of self-regulation, mechanisms that were actively maintaining the planet's ecosystem and ensuring its survival. It's as if the planet itself is alive," Shira said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've never seen anything like this before." Vexler leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the data. The complexity of Earth's biological systems was staggering. The planet seemed to possess a kind of self-awareness, a biological intelligence that guided the processes of life and energy in ways that were both unfamiliar and breathtaking. The Xarvos had seen countless planets, but none had ever exhibited such profound and dynamic systems. As the scan continued, something even more alarming became clear. Earth's energy fields were not static. They were in constant motion, shifting and adapting in real time. The planet's atmosphere seemed to be drawing in energy from the surrounding space, processing it, and redirecting it back into the environment. The level of control Earth's atmosphere had over its own energy flow was nothing short of astounding. "These readings, they're unlike anything we've ever seen," Vexler said, his voice heavy with a mixture of wonder and concern. "This planet doesn't just support life, it actively nurtures and defends it." Shira's eyes narrowed as she examined the data further. It's almost as if Earth's atmosphere is trying to protect itself and its inhabitants. But from what? Vexler thought about that question for a moment. The more he studied the data, the more he felt a creeping sense of dread. The planet's self-regulating mechanisms were far beyond anything the Xarvos had ever encountered. It was as if Earth itself had an innate ability to ward off threats, to shield itself from harm. "I don't know," Vexler replied quietly, his voice filled with a rare uncertainty. "But it's becoming clear that Earth is not like any planet we've encountered before. It's not just a world. It's a force of nature, a living entity with power we can't even begin to comprehend." The more they studied Earth, the more the Xarvos realized they had underestimated the planet. Vexler had originally thought it would be a simple mission, a routine scan of an insignificant world. Now, however, he understood that Earth was anything but ordinary. Its atmosphere was alive with energy, and the very fabric of its existence seemed to be woven with forces beyond their comprehension. "What do we do now, Commander?" Shira asked, breaking the silence. "We've never encountered anything like this. We've always been in control. But here were the ones being observed." Vexler didn't have an immediate answer. He had never been in a situation where he didn't have a clear path forward. But now, faced with a planet that seemed to defy all logic, he knew that they needed to tread carefully. "We continue gathering data," he said finally, his voice steady but filled with an underlying tension. "We need to understand how deep this goes. We're not leaving until we know what Earth is hiding." As the fleet hovered above the planet, the silence of space seemed to echo around them. They were no longer mere observers. They were intruders in a world that was far more than they had ever imagined. The question now was no longer whether Earth had something of value. It was whether the Xarvos were ready to face the consequences of uncovering its deepest secrets. And as Vexler stared at the glowing data streams on his screen, he couldn't shake the feeling that the true power of Earth was something far beyond even their wildest expectations. Something was awakening, something far greater than the Xarvos had ever encountered. And soon, they would come to realize that Earth was no longer just a planet to be conquered. It was a force that could shape the future of the entire universe. The planet's pulse. As the days stretched on, the Xarvos fleet hovered silently above Earth, concealed by the vastness of space. The data pouring in from their scans had grown even more bewildering. What had initially appeared to be an interesting anomaly in the planet's atmosphere now seemed to be a far-reaching mystery that threatened to unravel everything the Xarvos had once believed about life in the universe. Vexler sat in his command chair, his eyes locked onto the ever-changing streams of data. He had seen galaxies rise and fall, civilizations flourish and fade. Yet nothing had prepared him for the enigma that was Earth. The planet had revealed its strange energy fields, its self-sustaining, self-regulating biological systems. But there was something more, something hidden deep beneath the surface. It had begun to dawn on him that Earth's atmosphere was not just an energy hub, it was a force field in its own right. The readings showed that the very air around Earth was maintaining an incredible balance of energies, acting as a shield of sorts, protecting the planet and its inhabitants from external dangers. But the question remained, why? What was it protecting Earth from? And why was it so incredibly powerful? Zira entered the command room, her face reflecting the tension that had been building among the crew. She had spent countless hours analyzing the data, but like Vexler, she felt the weight of something larger and more insidious lurking just out of reach. "Commander," she began, her voice laced with urgency, "we need to talk about the energy signature we detected earlier. It's still growing exponentially. It's almost as if the planet itself is building something." Vexler turned his sharp gaze toward her, his mind processing the words. "What do you mean building something?" Zira looked at the display, where the data was now showing an irregular but steadily rising pattern in the energy levels coming from Earth's core. This increase in energy isn't just passive. It's directed. It's focused. Like the planet is constructing something, or preparing for something. The implication of her words sent a shiver down Vexlar's spine. The idea that Earth could be creating something unknown, a force capable of altering the very nature of the planet itself, was both intriguing and terrifying. But what could the planet be preparing for? And why was it doing so now? In response to their presence, "We need to investigate further," Vexler said, his voice cold and deliberate. "We can't afford to ignore any possibilities. Prepare a direct scan of Earth's core. If the planet is building something, we need to understand what it is before it's too late." Zira nodded and began issuing the commands to deploy a new set of probes, this time targeting the heart of the planet itself. Vexler had long relied on his tactical mind and technological prowess. But this time, the stakes felt different. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel in control. Earth was unpredictable, and it had the power to reshape everything the Xarvos thought they knew. The probes descended rapidly through the atmosphere, their sleek metallic bodies cutting through the clouds with ease. The data they sent back was even more confounding than before. Vexlar's eyes narrowed as he scanned the information pouring in. The energy levels from the core were increasing dramatically, but they weren't just increasing uniformly. They were pulsing, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. This can't be right," Vexlar muttered under his breath. A planet can't have a heartbeat. But the evidence was right there in front of him. The readings were consistent. The core of Earth was emitting waves of energy, each one perfectly timed, as if the planet itself was alive. Alive in a way that no biological entity could be. Zira looked at the screen in disbelief. It's almost like the planet has its own pulse. The data isn't just fluctuating, it's rhythmic, it's repeating. It's as if Earth is breathing. Vexlar stood up suddenly, his mind racing as he considered the implications of this new discovery. Could this energy, could it be a form of communication? Is Earth trying to speak to us? Zira's voice was tinged with uncertainty. It's possible, but we have no way of understanding its language. We've never encountered anything like this. The idea of a living planet, a planet with its own pulse, its own rhythm, was mind-boggling. But the more Vexlar thought about it, the more it made sense. Perhaps Earth wasn't just a planet at all. Perhaps it was more. Perhaps it was a sentient being, one that had been watching, waiting, perhaps even protecting itself from the Xarvos. As the pulses continued to grow, the pattern became clearer. Earth's energy was being channeled into a specific direction. It wasn't random. It was being focused on a single point, and the Xarvos instruments revealed a striking detail. There, deep beneath the surface, in a location previously undetected by their scans, was an enormous energy core. It was the source. It was the focal point of the planet's pulse. "Commander, we need to send a team down to the surface," Zira suggested, her voice tinged with an undercurrent of fear. If this energy is as powerful as it seems, the implications are enormous. We need to understand its origin. We can't wait any longer. Vexlar's face hardened as he considered her words. He had been hesitant to send any teams to the surface, fearing that doing so would alert the planet to their presence. But now, with this new information, he knew they had no choice. If Earth was indeed building something, a weapon, a defense, or something else entirely, they needed to act quickly. They could no longer afford to be mere observers. "Prepare the landing craft," Vexlar ordered, his voice firm. "We are going down." As the landing party made its preparations, Vexlar couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. Earth was not the peaceful, insignificant world they had once believed it to be. It was alive, it was pulsing with energy, and it was preparing for something. The landing craft descended from the fleet, cutting through the clouds, its sleek shape slicing through the atmosphere with precision. Below, the world stretched out in all its blue and green splendor. It was beautiful, serene, and utterly deceptive. Earth was no peaceful backwater world. It was a place of power, power that the Xarvos had never imagined. As the craft touched down on the surface, the team disembarked, their boots crunching against the solid ground. The air was thick with the unfamiliar energy that hummed all around them. They moved cautiously, scanning their surroundings, their instruments picking up the strange pulse of Earth's energy. The planet's pulse seemed to vibrate through the very ground beneath their feet, a rhythmic beat that resonated through their bodies. The world felt alive, charged, as if it was aware of their intrusion. And as they ventured further into the unknown terrain, the true nature of the planet began to reveal itself. The Xarvos mission had taken an unexpected turn. They had come to Earth seeking knowledge and power, expecting to find nothing more than a primitive, unworthy world. But now, they were standing on the edge of an unimaginable discovery, one that could change the course of history. The question no longer was whether Earth had something worth taking. It was whether the Xarvos could survive the awakening of a planet that seemed to have its own agenda. What Earth was building, what it was protecting, and what it intended to do with its immense power, Vexlar didn't know. But he had a feeling that the answer would reveal something far more dangerous than anything the Xarvos had ever faced before. And it was a mystery that they couldn't afford to ignore any longer.